Hi guys! So, planner piece. That elusive, sought-after state which planner addicts all over the world covet, where you're so in love with your planners and your system works so well that you don't feel the desire to switch up your planners, and every time you see a new planner you don't feel like you have to buy it because you're totally content and at peace with the planners that you currently have. This is what every planner addict dreams of, right? We go from planner to planner to planner, hoping that one of them, or perhaps a few of them, will bring us to this most wished for state of planner peace. Well, I have to say, I think that I am currently in a state of planner peace, and it's not all it's cracked up to be. I know, controversial, but I am here today to discuss the dark side of planner peace. That's right. Okay, so those of you who know me know that I am the quintessential multiple planner addict, and that I have been experimenting with many different planners over the last few years. So a bit of previous history for those of you who don't know. For probably about 17 years I just had one planner, and it was a very cheap, no brand planner. I would buy a new one every year. I used it mainly for appointments. I sometimes used it for notes, and then I'd run out of space because it didn't have any note pages, but it never occurred to me to look for a different planner. And then in late 2013 I fell down the proverbial rabbit hole into planner addiction when I bought a Filofax Flex and discovered the world of YouTube planner videos. And so at that point my eyes were opened to the whole concept of different layouts. Do you want a daily layout? Do you want a weekly layout? Do you want a shared weekend? Is it too big, too bulky, not enough room, etc. And so I had a Moleskine daily planner for a year with a separate Moleskine notebook in the Flex, and I loved that, but it was too heavy. So the year after I decided to try a Moleskine week on 2 pages, again with the notebook. Felt like there wasn't enough room. Found out about Hobonichis, tried a Hobonichi, fell in love with them, and the rest was history. So even though I loved Hobonichis, by that point I had been bitten by the planner addict bug, and I just was really curious to try out all kinds of different planners. So since then I developed quite an elaborate system, having multiple planners, a gratitude journal, all kinds of different trackers, etc. And you know, lots of you have been following me since then, and so you know all about those various adventures. So I think I started 2017 with about 11 different planners. To be fair, not all of them were planners. Some of them were trackers or more niche things like a gratitude journal. I think I was using one for shopping lists. I have a home planner which is joint between me and James, and so it just lists our appointments and things that we'll each be doing that the other one has to know about. That's this one. But over the first few months of the year, because of very, very intensive work schedule, I ended up kind of naturally paring down my system a bit, so that where before I was using 2 home planners, one for appointments and one for tasks, we ended up dropping that and just combining the 2 into the one that I just showed you because it was more practical. And in the same way, a lot of other things fell by the wayside just because I couldn't keep up with them, and it was starting to be a hindrance more than a help. And I ended up with this system which I'm now really happy with because I think it encapsulates everything that I need, and it's also very, very functional, meaning that at the times when I've been just like incredibly busy and, you know, like working 13 hours a day or whatever, these are the planners that I've used, and I haven't had to abandon them because I didn't have time for them. And you know, I think it's a very well-honed system now that I'm really happy with. So this is pretty similar to the last planner lineup I did, I think from the beginning of April. I have 5 planners plus the home planner, which is like a, I kind of, it's in my system, but because it's joint, I count it a little bit separately. So I have my 2 main planners, which is really where the bulk of planning goes on. My personal planner, which is also my wallet, and that's a Hobonichi Weeks, and my Hobonichi Cousin, which is my work planner, and really where I do most of my planning. And then I have my pretty planner, which is just a weekly overview, but I can decorate it, and that's its main purpose, and so it's not strictly necessary, but I love it and makes me happy, so I consider it an integral part of my system. and it also gives me a nice weekly overview. And then I have my daily planner, which is basically just daily to-do lists. So it draws on information that I've got in these two planners, but I just like having everything in a chronological list. And I've also started using it as a gratitude journal because I really like keeping everything in a smaller number of planners. I know it might seem funny that I have 5 planners and I'm calling that a small number, but by my standards it is. And then finally I have this expenses tracker, which is a Mambi, a mini happy planner. And I recently tried incorporating the expenses planner into the daily planner, which is a Hobonichi original, and then into the Hobonichi weeks. And interestingly, even though technically it did work, I somehow found that almost immediately I started spending more money and not keeping as good track of my bank balance. And I think that this is totally psychological, but somehow I feel like it has to be in its own planner, because when it's in its own planner and it's a planner that I really love and I'm excited about, then I look forward to writing down the expenses and keeping track of things, and it just has a miraculous effect and it works better. Because for the first few months of the year when I've been using this, my bank balance kept going up and up and up, like the savings were increasing. So I've decided that for some reason, I don't understand it, it's the mystery of planning, I would like to keep this in a separate book, even though it in a way objectively makes more sense just to put everything into these 4. Anyway, so these are my 5 planners, and this is really what has been working for me over the past few months when all kinds of different planners have ended up going into the graveyard. And because it's been working for quite a while, and in fact, even going back further, if you go back to my videos from a year ago, really, I'm already saying that these are my 2 main planners. And these have been my 2 main planners already. So this is my 3rd year in the cousin and my 2nd year in the weeks. And I'm totally, totally happy with them and would never switch them. The cousin works perfectly for work. It just has everything that I want for work. It has enough space. It's got the hourly layout that I like. It's great. And this is perfect because it's so slimline, it works as my wallet. I'd have to carry a wallet anyway, and this is such a small addition that it really doesn't make much of a difference in terms of the weight. And it's got enough room for all of my notes and my lists and YouTube videos and all kinds of different things, so that works perfectly. And then these 2 I just like because they make me happy and I like to be able to see the week presented in these different ways. So I've been using Hobonichi Original as a daily planner for almost a year now, since last July, and before that I was using a notebook as a daily planner. So this idea of having a daily planner I've been doing for more than a year, and that's been working really well. And the Pretty Planner is new for 2017, but I've been doing this for, well, 4 months. This is the 5th month, and I absolutely love it. So I think this system is easy to manage. All of the planners have a function. I feel like I use each one of them enough to justify having them. It's not burdensome, it's not confusing. I'm really, really happy with this system. So, everything should be great, right? Well, not so fast. Because this planner piece thing has got a little discussed downside. Well, I don't think it's discussed very much, because I think planner piece discussions center more on how we don't have it and is it really a thing? Does it exist? Is it possible to achieve? What can you do to achieve planner piece? And you know, sometimes people say if you have too many planners, you can't have planner piece, shiny object syndrome, etc., etc. And obviously there is a place for all of those discussions, but I really do think that, like, for the past few months, I haven't wanted to add anything to my lineup and I haven't wanted to take anything away from my lineup. And this has left me in the curious situation where I feel like I can't buy any new planners. So this is supposed to be the point of reaching planner piece, right? Is that you're happy with your planners and you don't want to change any of them out and you don't feel like anything else would work better for you and you don't want to add a new one. And in some ways I think like that's great because it's like, okay, it's all sorted out. But in other ways it's not very good, because as planner addicts, there's a whole aspect to this which is obviously about keeping organized and finding the best way for managing your routines and your plans and your goals and tracking and all of that kind of stuff. But also, it's our hobby. We like it. And part of the thing that we like about it is getting to try out new planners. So just as I've said before in another video that I did about Planner Piece, which I'll link down below, it's quite old, I think it's from maybe a year and a half ago. If you had another hobby, like say going to the cinema, people wouldn't expect you to just watch the same film over and over again and never want to see any new films. That would like seem odd, right? If like the cinema is your hobby. Whereas for planners, I think we're expected to settle on one planner and then never buy any new planners, because that's seen as wasteful. If you already have a planner, why would you want to try out another planner? But you know, like we all do it because that's what we love, and we enjoy stationery, and we like seeing new layouts and trying different types of paper and different systems, and disc bound versus ring bound versus bound versus spiral, etc. And that's part of the fun, and I have really enjoyed that like over the past few years. And you know, it's my hobby. It's like the main thing that I look forward to for fun. So I don't think that there's a problem in buying new planners. The only issue comes that obviously, unlike the cinema where like if you buy a ticket you go to see the film and that's it, if you buy a planner you then feel like you should use it, or you'd like to use it, because there is an element of joy to be taken from just having a planner on your shelf and taking it out and admiring it and thinking of all of the different things that you could do with it. And I have done that sometimes and not used a planner but still enjoyed it, which I think is fine as well. But I think we all think, you know, you're imagining how you'd use it, and so you want to think of a use for it. And even if you've already got a system which really includes everything that you technically need, we just can't help it. We like to try thinking of different uses for them, and that's one of the reasons that I've ended up with so many planners, is that I've wanted to try out a planner and then tried to think of a use for it, and then said, okay, I'll use this one for meal tracking, and then I'll use this one for you know, planning out evenings, and I'll use this for this and that for that. And that's how you end up with like 12 different planners that are in use at the same time, because you really want to be able to make use of all these beautiful planners and not just buy them and have them sit on the shelf. And you can give them away, but obviously if you do that, which I also do sometimes, then you don't have the planner anymore, and you know, unless you bought it with the intention of giving it away, you really sort of want to use it. So it's kind of like a paradox, in that on the one hand, like we want to be happy with our system and not changing out planners all the time, and on the other hand, we want to try out new planners because it's our hobby. So I think like a way of dealing with this can be, you have a planner for the year for a specific purpose. Like say this is my daily planner, and so I'd say, okay, I'll use this for the year, I'll really enjoy it, and then next year I'll try a different type of planner for my daily planner. That is one way of dealing with it. But I think for a lot of us it doesn't quite work that way, because if we love a planner, we want to keep buying that planner. So I love the Hobonichi Original, and I really like the idea of having all 3 different sizes of Hobonichis and using each one of them for something different. So the thought of just using this for a year and then saying, okay, no more Hobonichi Original for me, I'm going to try something else for my daily planner, is very sad, because the Hobonichi Original is like a trusted friend that has been keeping me company over the course of the last 2 years. And the thought of just, you know, abandoning it and moving on to a different planner is quite sad. So somehow you know, you want to be able to keep the ones that you know that you love and also try out new ones. And this is where Planner Piece is such a problem, because recently I've been like, well, I really love all of these. I don't want to give any of them up. They work perfectly well, and I also really enjoy how they look, and I like the layout, etc. But that means that like when I look at other planners, I'm thinking, do I have a use for this? And because I know, because I've just been through these like last few months of having a whole bunch of planners and then kind of naturally having it narrow down to what I feel like is a very tried and tested, workable system, I don't want to buy like another 3 planners to use for something that I know I won't be able to keep up in the long term, because that's just frustrating. And if you saw my last video on my planner graveyard, you know that I have ended up with a lot of planners that I was using for something and then it didn't stand the test of time. And so I don't mind if that happens, but I'd kind of like to avoid it from the outset. And as you know, I mentioned in that video, most of those planners that ended up in my graveyard were planners that I bought without a specific purpose in mind. So sometimes it works to buy a planner without a specific purpose in mind. For example, this mini happy planner, which I absolutely love, I actually got in Iraq, but I had really coveted this design, and it's beautiful, and I'm, you know, totally taken with it. I really like it. And I decided to use it for expenses just because I was trying to think of a use for it, and that turned out working really well. So I'm not saying that it's never a good idea to buy a planner without a use for it, because sometimes a use just makes itself known after you've got the planner. But I really think I'm at the limit here. So this all works very well. And why is this a problem? Because there are some planners that I'd like to buy, and now I feel like I can't buy them. So for example, I really like the Zinidor unicorns, and Zinnia Chu, I'll link her shop down below. She has these amazing vegan leather traveler's notebooks, and she's just come out with a whole bunch of new amazing colors, and she's added a pen loop, which they never had before, and that was my one issue, because a pen loop in a planner is pretty much one of my deal breakers. It really irks me if there's no pen loop. So she's got all these new colors with pen loops, and I love them, and I really want to buy one or two. But what would I use it for? I have no conceivable use for Traveler's Notebook, because as you can see, none of these are Traveler's Notebooks except for this one, and this is a Weeks, and she doesn't make week size. And she makes standard and personal size, and the personal size is too small for the Weeks. The standard size is too big. I know that it is technically possible to put a Weeks in a standard size Traveler's Notebook, but there would be quite a bit of overhang on the top and bottom and the sides, and that would just really bug me. Believe me, I've thought about it. I've measured the difference because I was trying to find any kind of justifiable way that I could think of a reason to buy one of these new Zinidor unicorns, because they look absolutely incredible. And this is kind of sad, because I sort of thought to myself, like, well, maybe I'll just buy one and then a use will become apparent. But I just don't think that's a good way to go, because I've got my collection down now mostly to covers that I really love and that I could imagine using. There are a few that I'm not using at the moment, and I'm not really sure what I'll use them for, but I'm just keeping them because I love them too much to get rid of them. For the most part, it's like A5 covers, and I, you know, often have A5 notebooks and some extra Weeks covers and some A6 covers that I switch out my Hobonichi with. So I feel like to buy a TN that I have no use for is just not a good idea, because I'll end up giving it away eventually, and then I'll be like, well, why did I spend money on that? So I kind of want to avoid that. But that is sad, because if I were in a more adventurous, non-planner PC state of mind, then I'd be like, well, maybe I'll switch my expenses tracker into a Traveler's Notebook, and I'll use that, and I'll set it up in all these different ways. But at the moment I'm like, no, I really know that like this kind of setup, a horizontal weekly setup like this, works really well. And you know, I've got inserts until the end of the year, so like there's no point in switching to Traveler's Notebook, which probably wouldn't work as well, because I've tried Traveler's Notebooks and I just can't get them to work for me. So I still hold out the hope that like maybe one day I could have a Traveler's Notebook setup that would work for me, but I just don't think it's realistic, certainly not for the foreseeable future. And then the other example is, I'm sure you're all aware of the new Erin Condren hardbound planners that are launching, and this for me is really a game changer, because I have never been an Erin Condren person. I've never had an Erin Condren. I've never wanted an Erin Condren. It's actually like one of the only planners that I've never even considered buying, and I think that a lot of that is just because I don't like spiral planners, and I also don't like laminated covers. And so, you know, a planner that has a spiral and a laminated cover is just like kind of my least favorite combination, and it's never appealed to me. And despite that, I do like some of the designs. I like the colors, like the rainbedical designs, and I also like the mid-century circles, but I've just never ever been drawn to it. But these new hardbound planners look amazing, because as you know, bound planners are my favorite type of planner. They look like beautiful hardbound books, and there's one in particular that has the mid-century circles in the colorful design, and that just looks amazing to me. I really, really like the look of it. But then I was thinking to myself, okay, so like I will buy one of these planners, and then what will I use it for? My lineup is set. I can't think of another use for another planner. And like, obviously there are suggestions or things you could do. There's like fitness tracking, there's meal tracking, but like, I know realistically I'm not going to do any of those things. And especially when I'm really busy at work, which is a lot of the time, it's like counterproductive to have a planner that you don't use. So these are the planners that work. I can fit everything into them. If I wanted to incorporate something else like meal planning, I could put it in here because this has got some extra space. So if I do my daily planning in this and then I do gratitude, you can see that the daily lists are pretty much always less than one column. So there's still room over here. If I really wanted to do meal planning, I could do it in here and there would be enough room. Especially if I don't put as many big stickers in as I have been doing. That's only because I've had quite a bit of space. So there's room in this to expand. I don't feel like I need another planner, especially because I am taking all of these planners with me when I go somewhere. So like, for example, I'm going to Greenland for a work trip, which I'm really excited about. And I'm going to take all of these planners with me because I love them all so much and I use them all on a daily basis that I can't stand the thought of being apart from them for 2.5 weeks. I'm not taking this one. I'm going to put the expenses temporarily in this one because I can do that when I'm away. So yay, only 4 planners instead of 5. But all of these 4 like are kind of so intrinsic that I wouldn't want to be without them for that long. So the thought of adding another planner that I would want to use on a daily basis just doesn't make sense to me right now when I could keep them all within the confines of these 4 and that would be manageable. But as you can see, they're still diverse enough that it's a nice mix. And for some people, 4 planners is still like, you know, ridiculously over the top. So that makes me really sad because I just cannot think of a use for these planners, and that means that like I feel like I can't buy them because I feel like I said, I'm going to try to be strict about not buying a planner if I don't have an idea of what I'm going to use it for. For a while, I attempted to combat this side effect of planner piece by starting to buy undated planners. So all of these planners are relatively recent acquisitions, and I bought them specifically because they're undated. And I think undated planners are like a planner addict's dream because it's like, ooh, you can hoard the planners, but you don't have to worry about them, you know, running out, going out of date. But the fact is, A, I don't like undated planners. I've never liked undated planners. I've never really understood the point of undated planners aside from the fact that, you know, they're good for planner addicts. But I really like to have them predated. That's just like a thing. It's another one of my deal breakers. So that's one thing. So I kind of know that there's a hurdle. If I ever come to use one of these, I'll have to like put the dates in and that will annoy me. And the other thing is that I can't imagine wanting to switch to any of these over the ones that I've already got at the moment. So like I bought them because I was curious about them and like they're really cute. This one is adorable. I love it. But I don't love it more than the ones that I've already got. You see, the problem with planner piece. So I've got these planners which in a way like are quite safe because they're undated, but I can't see myself switching into them and replacing any of these ones because these are like the pinnacle of planner perfection. So this is why I'm saying planner piece is not all it's cracked up to be, because it means you can't experiment. If you're like, well, yeah, okay, there's a new planner coming out, but you know, I know that mine is better and I don't want to try it. It's kind of sad. So it could be that another planner will come out and I'll be like, wow, that one is better than the one that I have. But until that happens, if there comes a time when I'm really think like, oh, this planner is absolutely better, on an objective scale it has some feature that I've been missing, then that would be a different matter. But it's hard to imagine that happening because I feel like these are all so perfect. So you see, it's a bizarre situation. It's like, it's good, but at the same time, it's not good because it deprives you of one of the great aspects of, you know, planner love, which is trying out different planners. So there we have it. This is the situation. I really don't know what to do. I've been trying to think, is there some way that I could have one planner that I just switch out a lot so that, you know, I can try new planners and still get to experiment. At one point I was doing that with my daily planner before I started using the Hobonichi original. I was using different notebooks because I thought if they're undated and they're just notebooks and I'm just using them for daily to-do lists, then I can switch them out every day if I want to, and I can have a rotation of like 5 different ones so that I feel like I get to use all the notebooks. And that was quite a good idea, I think, except that when I then switched to the A6, I love the A6 so much and it seemed so perfect for that that I didn't want to give it up again. And so now, because I like it so much, I'm kind of stuck with it. Isn't this bizarre? It's like a peculiar catch-22. It's like you want to love your planners, but then if you love your planners, you can't try new planners. So I just wanted to make this video to discuss this issue because I haven't heard people really talking about this, and I sort of feel like I can't be the only one that, like, you know, if you love your planner, it also kind of makes you sad that you can't try other planners. And I'm trying to think of a solution to this so that I can still like keep all the planners that I love and not end up with, like, you know, 50 other planners, which is, that's I think the other thing when you want to try new planners, you end up, like I said, adding more and more different, inventing different things to use the planners for. So, you know, like all of those sort of more niche uses so that you can have like 10 planners on the go, and it's just sometimes not practical to do that. So that is the situation. Let me know if you have experienced a similar thing. And this is obviously kind of tongue-in-cheek because I think, you know, the idea that like we're striving for planner peace and if only we could reach planner peace, and then we're like, yeah, planner peace, it's really not that great. It's kind of like, I think, you know, obviously the whole thing is like planner addiction altogether. It's quite lighthearted, so, you know, I'm not like saying any of this is too serious, and it's a terrible tragedy, but I just thought that my fellow planner addicts would understand that this whole issue of planner peace is more complex than we might like to believe. So I hope you enjoyed these planner addict ramblings. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon. Bye!